All right. Welcome to episode 2 of what have I called this show again? Rust in the Wild. I'm looking at a new issue this time around, which is so straightforward that it might even make this video completely unnecessary. But we'll find out. So, this is a pretty common request to some of my apps where somebody wants to just pass in a environment variable to say where the config file is stored. I think that although this person's asking for the file itself, I'm probably just going to change it to say like lazy CLI config directory so that I have the ability to go and add more things in the directory other than just this file. So, let me zoom in. Maybe one back. So in this case, I've gone and created a constant for my envar, and it's just called lazy CLI config directory. And I've made a couple tests down here. One to assert on the existing behavior, which is that when we call this config path function, we're going to end up with something that ends in lazy CLI / config.yaml. I'm not asserting on the entire string because it's going to be platform dependent. And then over here, I'm going to set the environment variable to just my own directory and then verify that we get the expected path to the config at the end. So I can run this and I can see that this guy, the one that asserts on the current behavior, passes, but this other one fails, so that's what we expect. So now we just need to get both of these to pass. So here's our function. Currently it uses this project directories package to just kind of auto-generate what the path should be, given that the application is called lazy CLI, and it has code internally to kind of consider which platform it's on and what the different paths should be. So there's different rules depending on what platform you are as to where like a config file lives. So, and then here, so we kind of get that, and then we hear, I think we're just appending it. I don't know why we're calling write file. Oh, we must be actually, what does this do? It creates a directory if it doesn't already exist. Okay. So I guess, come to think of it, this probably is doing two separate things. So one thing is finding out what the directory is, and then one is going and creating the file here. So I'm going to make a new function called config directory, and this guy here is returning a path buffer. I think I can just return that directly. I'm aware that unwrapping things is frowned upon, but I don't really care right now. So I'll grab this, put that in here, and now this guy is config directory. Okay, so far it's not complaining, and same situation with the test, so we haven't broken anything by doing that. But come to think of it, I probably don't even want to test this. Like, I probably want to just test this guy. So let me come down here. Instead of testing config path, I'll do config directory. Oh god, I don't need this anymore. And looks like I don't need the unwrap there. And we no longer need to care about this, the actual file. Let's test that. Cool. So if we come back up here, what we need to do is say that if we have the environment variable set, we're going to use that. Otherwise we'll use this thing. So I think I can use env, does it work? I can go env var pass in my thing here, and then say, I think I have to say dot or else. So this calls the operation if the result is an error, otherwise returns the OK value of self. Alright. That sounds good. So if I do an or else means that if there was an error, I guess firstly we should find out what actually happens if this thing, I guess if it's unset, will it return an error or will it return an empty string? The fact that it can return an error tells me that if the environment variable isn't defined, then that would raise an error, I assume. So I'm going to do an or else, and I believe this wants me to pass in a closure, I think these are called. And so this is going to pass in the error. I don't need the error, at least I don't care about it. So what do I do here? I guess this will be the thing that we default to. So I'll just grab that, chuck it in here. Okay, so I'm getting an error because we expected a path buff, but we got a result that includes a string. Right, so what I really want is, maybe I'll do an unwrap or else. Does that work? So unwrap means it should return the contained OK value or computes it from a closure. So yes, we want to return like the, I guess we want to have a string in here, but I can convert it to a path buff later. Expected struct path buff, but it found a string. Is this thing the same issue? This says path. So perhaps I need to say, well, okay, maybe I can just do outside here, go path buff from. Okay, I've still got mismatch types. So you found a string, but you expected a string, but you found a path buff. And then also we expected a string and we found a path buff. Okay. Okay, what can I do here? Maybe I can get rid of this guy. Maybe I should make this a bit more simple. So maybe I'll just, I'll comment out what I currently have, and I'll use a different syntax, and I'll say, here's our thing. I think I can match on it, and then say OK value. Is that how this works? And if I have the value, I'm going to return path buff from my value. That should totally work. Why is that complaining? No associated item named from found for struct path buff in the current scope. Associated item not found. Is it lowercase? Now it's still complaining. Expected, but it found a struct path buff. Let me quickly add an error case here. If there's an error, that's when I default to this guy. Okay, I might just delete this now. It's not complaining. Okay, so if I'll just keep that there for now. So how do my tests go? So it should end in lazy CLI, but it doesn't. Let's fall back to the default. So that's what this thing is. Okay, let's just see what it actually does. Return. So print line. I think I have to do this. It definitely ends in lazy CLI. So what the hell? Panicked should end in lazy CLI. Ends with lazy CLI. Why would that not work? Maybe I need to say string from. The trait bound string from path buff is not satisfied. Can I perhaps go the other way around and say that I want this thing to be converted to a string? Oh, hello. To string. Ends with. I don't even need to do ends with, I can just do contains. Does that work? The size for values of type string can't be done in compile time. How does this thing work? So, okay. Should this be string from, perhaps? Nope. ToString dot contains lazy CLI. Use of unstable library feature option result contains. Is this an option? Let's unwrap it then. Okay, does that work? No. Okay, application support, lazy CLI. What if I do this here? Is it any different? It definitely contains that. Unless I've done some crazy typo. So assert should say that if this first thing is true, then we pass. Otherwise, we print this message. We get this guy back. We then here convert it to a string. We unwrap it. We check if that contains, and it said that it panicked. Maybe I'll just grab the result, put that in a variable. Creates a temporary which is freed while still in use. Temporary value dropped while borrowed. Should this be a reference perhaps? No, they need a lifetime then. I really just want to give back a path buff so that the person who calls it owns it. This is saying, is it perhaps, do I need to do a dot clone here? Consider using a let binding to create a longer lived value. Well, I feel like I'm already doing that. Maybe I need to do it earlier. Let result equal that. And that is now okay. And now it all passes. Can't say that I understand why that worked. Maybe I should be doing the same thing. If I don't do this bit, am I allowed to say dot ends with? Let's see if that passes. And that passes. So the secret is to I don't really get that. I swear I was already doing this. So if it's stored in a variable, it behaves differently than if I just put it there directly. Why would that be the case? Is it because I now own this guy, and if I put it in here, it consumes it, but we might want to use it elsewhere? I have no idea. I suppose if you, pass it in as a call here, it immediately gets removed, but then you don't really need it afterwards. Anyway, that makes no sense. So I guess the next step is to do this better, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like this shouldn't be necessary. Maybe it is. I guess you're saying if it's good, we'll return a path buffer. If there's an error, we'll just default. I just wonder if like it's necessary. Like, am I allowed to just do this? Have that on the outside, and then get rid of this bit. Oops. Because this returns a path. I still don't really understand the difference between a path and a path buffer. If I recall correctly, it's like a path is like it's like analogous to string versus like str. But I don't know, so I'm just going to leave it like it is. And I'll put this back to how it was. So if it's passing the test, then I'm satisfied. What? It's failing again? Path buff, 2 owned. Hang on, where have I done wrong? Fallback to default config directory failed, and it's panicking. This is just returning a match based on that. If it's okay, we get a path buffer from it. Otherwise, we do this. And then down here, we've stored it in a variable. Okay, so it panicked. It should end in LazyGit. Source config storage 70. I guess I can print it again. Print line. Result. / my directory. How is it getting that result? Let's remove this one. It passes. So it's like the fact that this, maybe it's doing it in parallel. And so it's not really safe to set envars. Yeah. Build.rs. That sounds like overkill. I'm running tests. The methods return a string that contains the values of some environment variables on the test. If this string has the right format, but I could find a way to set the environment variables before using the derive macro. That does sound like overkill. Have a list of constant variables stored within it. I'm simply then using the module where needed. Yeah, well, I've got no idea what's going on here. So what I will do instead is, let's see where config path is being used. It's being used from here. I'm just going to have it pass in the environment variable. So that's this thing. And what does that return? So this guy's now going to take in a, is it a result? I guess it's going to take a dear env var, which is a result. I probably can just find out by looking at this, right? It's a result of a string or a var error. And I'll just pass it into here. And this thing will now match on that result. Feels weird passing a result in. It really should be an option. And then, yeah, I feel like it should be an option. And if it's an option, then it does two completely different things depending on the situation, meaning maybe you should just pull this stuff out to here as well. But then, wherever it is here, but then you have the initial problem where you wouldn't be able to test that without mocking out the env var. Yes. Alright, I'm going to go back to actually looking for how to do this. A simple wrapper which allows faking the environment using the real environment. mstore.real, making a fake environment. mstore.fake. Why should I do this? What's the purpose of this? God damn it. Like, if the intention is so that I can set environment variables without having concurrency issues, then that makes sense. I'm just going to undo this stuff. And I'll undo that as well. So just double check what's failing. Test fallback to default config directory. If I remove this, the other one passes. If I remove this, yeah, so it seems like this top one seems to pass no matter what. Yeah, it looks like they're polluting each other. Ideally, you could pass in an environment variable that could just be an empty string if it's not found. So maybe I could do a thing where back over here. Sounds like that's not the Rust way though. You probably should just have it be an option. I need to import my env crate. And I need to define this in a way that can be accessed elsewhere. Can I export that? Pub? Does that work now? Can I... Yeah, I'll pull that in, okay. And... Is this now all good? So it's now passing in an option of a string. And I'll pass it in here as well. And this is now and it's no longer going to be okay, it's going to be some or none. And then down here, forget about this, I'm just going to pass it, like in this case, it's going to be a none. Can I just do that? And then here it's going to be some. String, oh god, string from. Okay, does that work? Yes, it does. Am I happy with the result? So we want to get the config path. We probably should change the name of this so that we are being clear that we're going to write to a file. But it's not really relevant to this video. But yeah, we pass in an option of a string. If it is defined, we'll just use that. Otherwise, we'll do this. And then we create the actual file itself if it doesn't already exist. Alright, I'm satisfied. I'll just wrap it into a PR. I've already got a branch for it. Allow configuring envar for config directory. Cool. Alright, thank you for watching episode 2. We'll find out if anytime soon I'll be able to do trivial issues in a trivial amount of time. Till next time.